Hey, Charles.
Yeah.
Hey, Charles, we're live, Charles. What are you eating, Charles?
I'm eating mochi crunch. I'm trying to cover myself with culture. So I eat mochi crunch with ketchup.
Mochi crunch with ketchup.
Yeah.
Mochi crunch with ketchup. Are you joking or are you for real?
I'm joking.
Because that actually sounds really good. That actually sounds.
Trust me. I had dropped mochi crunch in my plate before ketchup. I tried it. It's almost like, you know, you're telling me about when you're inverting, going the wrong way and pulling up the nose and ready for crash. Yeah, one of those feelings.
Everybody's saying, ew. I don't know. I'm going to try that. I don't know. I wonder if we get some mochi crunch. I tell you what. Hang on.
Anyway, aloha, gang. Glad to have you on the air with us tonight. We got a fun-filled night tonight, talking about TBRs, enforcement, and so forth. But I'd like to say aloha to you all. Thank you for staying safe. Thank you for all of your alohas throughout the day. I bet some of you wonder if I work or not, because I see on Facebook, oh, try that with ketchup, bro. Chocolate chip cookie with ketchup.
Wow. Oh, you know, Charles.
Yes.
I know you love cookies.
Yes.
And you know I love mochi crunch.
Yes.
And you purposely ate mochi crunch because you know I don't more mochi crunch.
Okay.
And I know you know more this chocolate chip cookie.
You're wrong. I'm going to go in the kitchen and go get some right now. I'm going to get some. Because I made some earlier today.
Well, but this is Patsy's one.
Okay. Well, I made Stephanie Iona's one. And what I did is I like to put them, you know, when you get them at 375 and you bake them for about 20 minutes. I like mine when the thing go 40 minutes. When the thing change color, the thing change appearance and the texture. It's like mochi crunch when you're cooking cookies. Beyond, you know, when the timer go bing, bing for take them out, you leave them in for another half an hour. Let me tell you, it's crunchy.
No. I don't like sweets. I'm not really big on eating cookies, but this one is really good.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a big cookie, yeah. You want me to share the cookie?
No. Everybody, please share this before we go on. Okay. If you're at home, please unmute your audio. Not that it matters, but just for the heck of it, unmute your audio.
Oh, I tell you. Anyway, we're heading into the 4th of July weekend, Independence Day. And people, please be careful on the weekend. You hear us saying this every single night, but please don't be complacent. You know, we know this weekend is the big weekend. We're missing the hospice event. We're missing the PMRF event. We're missing the Kekaha event. But you know, it's for the better. It's for everybody's best interest.
But
Charlie and I were talking.
Last night we had some boto that would set off on. I think you know, I live towards a valley, Waimea, and I think brother was part of an excavation team trying to bring down the mountain last night. I mean, you know the kind of guys, you hard for feel sorry if the thing detonate and they're holding them, yeah.
You know, it's happening. These guys, you know, they ordered their illegals, fireworks, hoping that they could blow them up this weekend. And no place, you know. So they're doing them now. It's all over, Charlie. Kapa, it's in West Side. I see everybody's complaining, like, come on, guys, man.
Well, you know what it does? You know the sad thing about it? We're supposed to have the best technology in catching illegal trafficking of illegal items going from island to island, state to state. And guess what? Every year, never fails, New Year's and 4th of July, there's some illegal stuff like you have never seen before. So all I can say is, you know, You like play with that, hurt yourself. Just never hurt innocent people. That's all I ask.
Sorry, I just checking to make sure I had sent a link to Kaina. But yeah, so everybody be careful this weekend. We heard about the new cases today. Yeah, thank God we don't have any on Kauai, but we did see Hawaiian Airlines had some employees and that got tested positive. And that's scary when people in that industry test positive because we really don't know, like restaurants, airplanes, bars, schools, somebody tests positive, then the contact, the chance of contact is so much more greater. So people just be safe. That's just be safe. Think common sense. Wear your mask. Do all the things you got to do because we really cannot have this thing go nuts on Kauai like it's happening on the mainland. We just cannot. We don't have the resources. You heard it last night from the doctor. You've heard it from so many people. So please. And if you don't care about yourself, that's fine. Care about everybody else. Yeah, that's it. So Kaina is in the waiting room, by the way. And TVRs has been a problem, an issue for a long time. With this pandemic, it's become a loophole for quarantine breakers. So I asked Kaina if he would come on and share a little bit about TVRs in general, the issues facing our people on Kauai, and more specifically, what's the impacts during this pandemic. So, Charlie, if you don't mind, I'm going to bring him in.
Okay. I do mind.
Ooh, nice house. See him. Look, golf course property. Coconut tree. Look, he didn't realize we was on before he got to his table. He's connecting to audio. I don't know if they know that we can see them, when they, because you notice everybody get that same look when they come on at first. Yeah. They're like,
yeah. Can you hear us?
How's it, Charlie? How's it, Mel?
Hey,
aloha, Kaina. How you doing, man? You look young.
How are you guys?
Oh, we're doing good. We're doing good.
Hanging in there.
Thank you so much. You got a beautiful place, bro.
Yeah, it's a small house. It's about 800 square feet is all, but we do everything in the lanai. We eat, we hang out. Small house, big lanai.
Yeah, actually my house is 720 square feet. So I love it. I never had a big house, so I don't know what I'm missing, but I like the small house. And I think we may do a lanai just because, like you said, it's hot. So if we go outside, maybe do a lanai, but yeah, perfect.
I just bought me a tiny home just yesterday. It's about maybe 8 by 10. They sell them at Home Depot. I just put some windows in that plastic thing.
No, that's right. Cause some of our family wanted us for, you gotta make a bigger house, all this stuff, and we're designing it, but ultimately we decided to go small. And with small house, you gotta keep them clean because small can come cramped. But you will know, Mel, if you're 720. But hey, after the half hour it take clean, pow, no big house, like.
The bad part about our house is 3-bedroom with only 1 bathroom. That's the only. Ooh. So we gotta get synchronized bowels and bladders when the kids were home. You gotta synchronize all the bowels, all the bladders. You gotta set the eating schedules of everybody so everybody's digestive system. But by the time the kids were 6 and 7, we knew everybody's digestive system. We knew exactly. But anyway, Kaina, thank you very much. I don't know if you're familiar with our show, but we just bring on all very important people like yourself, and it's very informal. We know TVRs have been an issue for a long time, but we kind of wanted to focus on the TVRs during the pandemic, and maybe you can start with the amazing work you guys did. Congratulations on that MOUs you got signed with Expedia, Airbnb, and VRBOs or whatever, because I don't know. I want the people to understand how important and how big that is for our little island. So, kind of short introduction, and then let us know. Give us some good news, man. Give us some good news.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for having me, Mel, Charlie. For those watching the show that don't know me, I'm Kaina Hall. I'm the planning director for the County of Kauai. Among an array of different things the planning department does, it is tasked with enforcing our vacation rental law, which the law essentially states that you can have a vacation rental. That means your own single-family dwelling home, a single-family dwelling home that you own, you can rent to transients in the short term. And that is permissible in our visitor destination area and only in our visitor destination area. And that visitor destination area is limited to a certain area in Princeville, a certain area in Kapa'a along the Coconut Coast, a certain area in Nowili Wili around the Marriott, and then in Poipu. And that's really the only place you can legally operate a vacation rental, with the exception of about 450 permits that are certificates that vacation rentals that operate outside of the VDA were operating prior to the prohibition being put in place. They all got to kind of grandfather themselves in, but those 450 outside of the VDA, you can't get any new permits. Those are the only ones that exist. And so, as we've all seen over the course of several years, vacation rentals somewhat, permeate our residential areas and our agricultural lands and disrupt residential neighborhoods, community, their character, be it from traffic, be it from loud noise from the parties. The law is very specific to say you're not supposed to be having these operations in these residential areas. And so we're tasked with enforcing against them. And I think, Mel, with your time on council, that was one of your priorities to really go after them. And I'll say, it took a while for our office to kind of really unwind the implementation and try to figure out how to go after them. So I really appreciate the time you were on council and really kind of pushed us to go in that level. But over the past few years, we really hunkered our enforcement program to go after these illegal operations, to cite them, to find them. And the vast majority that we do shut down or we cite and give the cease and desist notice, the vast majority of them do comply. They do come into compliance. We monitor again to make sure they're not up and advertising. But there's a handful that don't comply. And so those that don't, we have no problem levying hefty fines on them and till they shut down. And most of the ones that get the fines, they will shut down. But then there's still a handful that just don't, and we end up having to battle them in court. We've got approximately 40 lawsuits against the planning department right now. Almost all of them are because they're illegal vacation rentals that we're shutting down, but they're going through the appeal process. And we have kind of maintained a steady course of, we're not going to be afraid of a lawsuit. And so our county attorney's office is handling those cases at whatever stages it is. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what the vacation rental enforcement program is and does. About 4 or 5 years ago, we did have communications with a company called Host Compliance to figure out approximately how many illegal vacation rentals there are. At that time, there are about 1,500 to 1,600 illegal vacation rentals operating in Kauai.
You heard that, people? 1,500 to 1,600. Kind of, I don't like to interrupt, but I think it's important. The TVR, transit vacation rental. What is a transit? What makes it a transit or a short-term rental?
For the most part, it's let me say, technically by the law, it's anything less than 6 months. The vast majority of these transients are staying in the vacation rental for anywhere between 2 weeks to 2 or 3 weeks. But technically under Kauai's law, it's anything less than 6 months.
Okay. And then you said there were 40 cases in court right now.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, that was just the questions I wanted to get out before. So go ahead with your host compliance.
Oh, yeah. So really, really hunkering down and battling away and waging, in some cases, legal war with these illegal operators that refuse to come into compliance, and holding the line and going to court. After those 4 or 5 years, have passed, we actually contracted with that company, and we have them on contract to monitor the World Wide Web. And the first numbers he gave us, because they're able to run algorithms to help us get the data of these guys advertising. The first set he gave to us had about 220 illegal vacation rentals. And I got extremely upset with the company saying, whoa, like, dude, I told the CEO, like, Ulrich, where's the numbers? Where's my 1,1600? You looked at when we first got in touch with you. And he kind of responded, that was 4 years ago when we first started talking. Since that time, you guys have been just waging all out war on the illegal vacation rentals, levying $10,000 fines. In some cases, when he brought up one in particular, he said you won a case in which you were fining the TVR $10,000, and the hearings officer disagreed with your $10,000 and slammed them with a $150,000 fine. He's saying a lot of these illegal operators are legitimately afraid to go into operation now. So the team has kind of really brought those numbers down. It doesn't mean the job's over. You have to be constantly vigilant and constantly on the case. And there's still those 200 that are out there. But we've come a long way. With really credit to our enforcement specialists that are just on the World Wide Web daily, just monitoring the websites. So that's kind of where we are and where we've been. With what happened in the news recently, the announcement that we signed a memorandum of understanding with both Airbnb and Expedia. And Expedia is the parent company of VRBO and HomeAway, which are two vacation rental platforms. What they ultimately say and do is every month they'll work with the County of Kauai to get us a report of all the addresses via the tax map key numbers of all of their operators and the link to every single one of their advertisements. And any essentially tax map key that is not in the visitor destination area, is not a non-conforming use certificate holder, one of those guys outside the VDA that was grandfathered in, or is being fraudulently used, they'll kick them off the platform, which is huge news for us because these platforms essentially allow anybody, legal or otherwise, to advertise their vacation rental to the global market, right? You can take a house in, say, Hamino and illegally, because the platforms like Airbnb really weren't watching which ones were compliant or not, and just allow them to advertise to the world market. And so now they're gonna voluntarily work with us to ensure that they're removing all of the non-compliant vacation rental advertisements.
That is a huge help. I remember years ago, the legislature was trying to get that done, and really for the purposes of collecting taxes and making sure that they paid their fair share. We know a lot of these people. Some of them, believe it or not, some of the illegals actually do pay TAT and they do pay GET, and they think that's a way to entitle them to keep running the illegal operation. But in reality, the whether legal or not based on the fact if they're paying taxes or not. It's with the planning department whether or not they're authorized. And on Kauai, there's some strict rules. How many? And again, we just got some questions that's going to be popping up. I'm going to be putting them out there. How many $10,000 fines have we issued? Any during the pandemic?
Let
me rephrase the question. Have we issued any citations or notices to cease and desist during the pandemic?
No, we haven't. We have issued cease and desist, but not at the fine level. And those, I have to say, are advertisement we found up. During the pandemic, you got two different fine situations going on. One is just the standard planning department, illegal vacation rental under normal times. We still have those powers. We're still monitoring it. But as soon as the pandemic hit, what happened was TVRs in the very beginning from March 27th to June 16th, from that time span, TVRs were prohibited from operating. And so what my team was doing was just scanning the web and basically putting any advertisements that still had calendar dates open on notice. If you keep this thing on open and take reservations, you could be cited not to our $10,000 fine, but immediately with a $5,000 KPD fine and potential 1 year in jail. So kind of our vacation rental monitoring from a planning level, we essentially cannibalized our team and gave it more towards the Kauai Emergency Management Agency to really put all these guys on notice. And I have to say though, the vacation rental industry for the most part had shut down. They were not advertising on any given day. Non-pandemic times, there'll be 6,000 to 7,000 advertisements on the World Wide Web for vacation rentals on Kauai. Many of those advertisements are for the same unit, but there's about 5,000 or 6,000 on the World Wide Web. When the pandemic hit, within a few days, when we're doing the monitoring, there's probably only 1,000. That's still a lot of advertisements, but a lot of them had just pulled them off and said, we're not advertising. The vast majority of that 1,000 were advertising, but they had blocked their calendars out for the time of the pandemic. But a handful hadn't. Well, about 500 or 600, because that's how many notices we sent out. And most of those folks who still had their calendars open were responding with, "Oh, my bad, we're not taking reservations," and they fixed it. Those that refused to acknowledge our notifications, we did do a series of sting operations in which we attempted to essentially, in an undercover manner, book with these folks. We have essentially a way to work with a mainland number and a email address, and essentially everyone that we tried to sting to book a reservation through, the response was, "Oh, sorry, we're not taking bookings at this time." But are some out there? Yeah, there are, because aside from that, our TVR enforcement team, because of the prohibition on TVRs during that time, is actually at the airport right now. And so they work with KPD and National Guard to ensure that, well, from the 27th to June 16th, there was a prohibition on TVRs. Right now, TVRs can operate. From 16th on, they can operate, but they can't have quarantining travelers in them. Meaning you, Mel, Charlie, we can go stand a TVR right now in Kauai. We can go stand a TVR on Big Island because we're not subject to quarantine measures. Somebody from Maui Island could come here. Inter-island travelers not quarantining, they can stay in TVRs. Anybody that gets off an airplane, the Trans-Pacific airplanes are required to quarantine for 14 days, and they cannot stay in a TVR. So our team is monitoring at the airport, and I was there on Wednesday, and we put 5 passengers back on the airplane to say, sorry, you're trying to stay in a TVR. We're not letting you through these gates. You can either go to a hotel that has quarantine measures in place, or you can get back on that same plane you just flew in on. And 5 of them just got back on the airplane.
With those cases, Karina, do we go after the TVR owner and cite the TVR owner that booked that reservation knowing that they cannot? Is that in planning, or is the KPD doing that? Is someone enforcing the fact that you catch them and they put them back on a plane? The TVR owner, there's no consequence if we're not enforcing. Do you know if we're enforcing that end of it?
We're working with KPD to build the cases against these guys, because absolutely, you don't so much fault the traveler as you do the actual operator who is, brazen enough to be advertising to bring people here and violate quarantine policies, essentially. So it really is on those, like I said earlier, vast majority of the vacation rental industry has come into compliance, but those handful of bad operators that are just, brazen enough to tell people to come here, and some of them, I think I came across one on Wednesday when I was in the airport, where she was literally only going to stay here for 12 days. So it's not like she could leave the site, but I don't think in her booking with the vacation rental operator, she was even informed or apprised by this operator that she can't leave the site, nor is she even supposed to be at the vacation rental to begin with. So it definitely is an operator. We're working with KPD to build the case against these guys.
Yeah, well, Charlie and I, since the show, we have thousands of eyes and ears out there that send it to us, send the pictures. They screenshot these ads on Craigslist and all these different platforms out there. There's so many different platforms for TVRs, and Turo and the cars. Now we got Turo, and we had Angela Keen on here a couple of times, and they're aware that we have these underground networks that are operating that provides them with the car and the TVR. But all of these that that what we were doing, we're just reporting them. If I found it on Craigslist, and I know we sent some to your office, kind of. In fact, we sent a few over that we found through our viewers. But a lot of these ads weren't informing the people about the quarantine. It was just this, and then there was a bunch of these people. And let me say that the legal TVR operators, they do provide a necessary accommodation for that type of traveler that don't want to stay in hotels. So I in no way dislike all TVRs. And legal ones, a lot of them, most of them are operating legally and responsibly. But on these ads that were coming out, there's no notification. These guys are coming in and with the intent to violate quarantine. That's the frustration. And it was then it went to the short-term rentals. I don't know if you've seen any of those. I know we sent some over. Short-term rentals month to month for local residents only. All of a sudden. But when we get the quarantine lifted, you'll get your notice to vacate. I mean, so brazen to say, we only want you to, so you can give us some money. But once we can rent out to the tourists, we're kicking you out. And that's why I asked a question about the short-term rental. And there's a lot of questions that popped up about that. If you're renting less than 180 days consecutive, then you're a short-term rental.
Yep.
That's what the code says, and that's what the rule is. Right?
Yeah, absolutely correct, Mo. So we've come across a fair amount of travelers that are trying to stay in them with a 30-day rent, and we inform them you can get back on that airplane, or you can show us that you booked the hotel. Yeah, but it's 6 months, and some of the confusion too is the fact that Honolulu and Hawaii Island, their TVR law is 30 days, and they recently passed their laws. So it's been in the news a fair amount this past news cycle last year, and theirs is 30 days, and even in communicating with the state when they are trying to help us ensure that we have our own quarantine policies in place, not to be confused with Hawaii Island, not to be confused with Honolulu. It's not 30 days on Kauai, it's 180 days. Yeah. Anything less and your trans-Pacific traveler is going to be stopped at the airport.
And I know that they're validating. You got your planning officials or employees on there validating the legal TVRs but there was a period that TVRs were just banned, so it just didn't matter. Do you have any idea how many of these people were sent back? You're probably the wrong guy to ask, but have you heard how many people were actually? I know you talked about Wednesday, 5 people. Good job. How many do you think we sent back since we started during the TVR ban?
I don't have those numbers off the top of my head. I can say every week for the past few weeks we've been sending people home. I know yesterday at least one traveler was sent home. I know 3 weeks ago one person was arrested because they just essentially refused to book travel back home or book at a hotel. And so essentially and that is the choice. If you're coming here and you got a TVR reservation, so you can't leave the airport, you can either book a hotel, get back on the plane, or you're gonna get arrested. And so ultimately this guy refused and he was arrested. He had a travel partner who, once I guess saw that, then that individual booked the hotel. And I believe those individuals decided to, when eventually he made bail, I believe they decided to return back home to the mainland. But as far as the actual number, I don't. I know every week a handful are being sent back, but we can find those numbers out for you.
I just find it fascinating that people would come all the way over here, hours and hours in an airplane. I gotta believe that they know, even if, because when they book the flight, there's huge warnings on. Now there's huge warnings on all the airlines websites, all of the third-party booking companies, all of them have the COVID warnings that you click and you pick your destination and it tells you. But I really find it hard to believe that someone would come all the way to Hawaii to go stay in a room for 14 days.
Yep.
Especially if their travel span is 12 days, meaning that they're not going to go see the island. That's crazy.
Yep.
And I think that's part of the challenge, is part of the adventure. these guys come over here and they think they can get away. And I worry as far as August 1st, when the quarantine gets somewhat lifted. I still believe there's going to be a lot of people that won't qualify for the no quarantine because they won't get a test or whatever the case may be. Are you guys staffed? Are you prepared? Is this county ready or able to monitor that type of increase in our mainland visitors?
Yeah, it just depends on how big that wave looks. Yeah. I think if it is lifted in the manner that is being talked about by the governor's office, that and it's not set yet, right? They're just talking about the fact that if you get a test, perhaps the plan will be on August 1st, you get the test and then you don't have to quarantine. If it is done in that manner, how many more people are going to now get the test and just will waves of thousands of people start flowing into here? We're ready to man those stations, and our staff is aware. And right now, I have them in teams of 2 out there. KPD, of course, has a lot more presence, and National Guard does. But we are ready to work it should that wave increase. The one the one issue that will it really increase exponentially, we're gonna have to see. But the purpose of the quarantine, one is it is indeed making our community safer for those that come here, but also because we can't stop travel, right? As a county, as a state, we cannot constitutionally, we don't have the authority to stop the planes, but we do have the authority to dictate what we do with the traveler once they arrive, and which is why this quarantine measure is in place. So it is for the safety, but it also makes it very unattractive for many travelers to come here because of the fact that they don't want to stay inside for 14 days. And so what we're learning too is everybody's a little concerned, well, once they get this test, then they can come over. A lot of places it's not going to be that easy to get a test. And quite honestly, when you see these spikes in a lot of the states, if any of these travelers attempt to go to the hospital to say, I want to get a test because I want to go to a vacation, a lot of these hospitals are going to tell them suck eggs because they're reserving these tests for symptomatic patients.
Hey, new shirt, suck eggs. I love it. Yeah, we make shirts. We get some guests that come up with some amazing quotes, and we make shirts. You see that one right there?
Hey, there we go.
That was Tina Yamaki, who happens to be on right now watching this. So Tina, we made a shirt because of that. Of course, the world famous Doodoo Boy, which was made famous by our mayor. We also get some nice regular, Kauai Strong stuff.
There we go.
But suck eggs, Kirk. Did you hear that? Suck eggs. Now, this is the test. I'm sure you didn't watch our show when that became famous. Have any idea what that is, Kaina? I know you're a very intelligent man.
I'm trying to see it's blocking where I'm not familiar with that phrase.
It's where e kupuna. You ever heard of that before? Charlie made that up. But Charlie, why don't you put it back up and explain?
Okay, we had a guest that's doing a kupuna show, Brickwood Galateria. And so while he went on a break, I was trying to give the people the website. So I was reading it, and I said, okay, the website is Where E Kupuna, and I spelled it WEARE Kupuna. So then Brickwood comes back and said, brother. Hold on, let me help you. It's We Are Kupuna.
And he was so serious because he was telling everybody, you heard the website whereekupuna.com, and I'm writing it down like, why would they pick that as a domain name? But anyway, so we have so suck eggs. I'm already seeing that, and our viewers help out. They're saying balut, suck eggs, balut. Look, people already ordering. They're ordering the suck egg shirt. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So you're exactly right, and we've been talking about this for a while about the availability of testing with the spikes. It's going to be rough. This is what I'm thinking, and I could be wrong, but once we it was known that Hawaii was going to be lifting the quarantine for people that had the 72-hour test, everybody went online before they called their doctor, before they called CVS or wherever the heck they think they're going to go get a test, and they booked their flights.
Yeah.
They booked their flights for their family because it's $200 to Kauai or wherever they want to go. And as they get closer to departure, they're going to realize, damn it, we cannot get a test. So these people that are going to be coming over without the test will be forced to quarantine. Those are the ones I'm more concerned about because those numbers will increase.
Yep.
And that's the concern I have as far as resources, police, National Guard, or planning, or whoever you guys can round up to go out and track these guys down. You know, the quarantine kapu Hawaii
Yep.
quarantine kapu busters, Angela Keen them.
Yep.
They do a great job, and we're talking about trying to form a Kauai unit so we can help. They have the Attorney General's office up there that can actually do enforcement and investigations. We don't, and our police force is kind of tasked. So I'm hoping that we can get something together to lend a hand. And but you guys are focusing on the zoning side, not the quarantine side. That still goes to KPD.
No, so the only reason my team is there is because of the vacation rental issue. As far as you can't vacation rentals can operate right now, but they're prohibited from having travelers quarantine in them. If a traveler comes and stays in a quarantine site like a hotel that has designated and sanctioned quarantine policies in place, they can, and once they're done with that quarantine for 14 days in the hotel, they can move on to the vacation rental. So the reason my staff is there is just to make sure every single place of stay that these guys are listing is not a vacation rental. The vacation rental owner can quarantine in his own vacation rental, but aside from that, nobody else can. And so that's essentially why our team is there, to make sure that that policy isn't violated.
What happens when someone says, gives you an address and they say, I'm staying with friends or I'm staying with family? In some cases, they're actually giving addresses that don't exist. I'm not sure what database you guys have down at the airport, but how are these guys getting through?
So that's the thing. If it's not a valid address, they're also not let through. Yeah.
Valid's a bad word because valid means it's a taxed property. So I'm talking about, we've heard the horror stories about people that have cops and the National Guard has been showing up at residences looking for the visitor, which these residents have no idea who they are.
Yeah.
That was the question. How do we validate that the address is not just a valid address, but an address that is expecting visitors?
Yeah, and I'm gonna speak a little outside of my domain, just because I watch it happen. My team isn't the one actually validating the addresses to ensure that the person at the address is hosting the Trans-Pacific traveler. But you have another section of the team that screens that will make sure that the phone number that the traveler is traveling with is valid. We'll call the phone right in front of them, and then they'll also be calling the residents as well, to ensure that person is quarantined there. My father is living with me right now for the next 3 months. He lives up in Alaska, but he came down because to kind of help out with some family things down here. And so I did get the call from the airport folks saying, is this kind of Hull? We have Mike Hull here. Is this your father? Is this your residence? Will he be quarantining in your residence? So that's essentially how it's working. But indeed, we are getting the stories that people are slipping through.
Yeah, and I think that, and I'm hoping, and I'm probably gonna have to talk to the chief, because that's gonna have to be really ramped up, because again, this underground network, they have it all, they got it covered. They got somebody at the house, they got somebody to answer the phone. Phone could be transferred to a cell phone. I mean, there's so many ways, unless we physically follow them. See, that's what I think. I think we should physically have a cadre of part-time employees, temporary employees that'll follow them to the unit, to the residence, and make sure that they're actually going to a house that's
that they listed,
not a vacation rental.
I have a question. Last night we had this doctor that came on from the North Shore, Dr. Kimball, but he also is he does ER work and ICU work up at Utah. So Utah have been having its fair share of outbreaks. And one thing that he was very worried about is because I was curious about the studies that recently showed, because if you think about it, we just had one protest not too long ago, Honolulu, 10,000 people, not one COVID case reported, all outside. So now, I guess throughout the nation, it's becoming more and more apparent that outside, the percentages are lower to get COVID than it's inside. So knowing that, and with the airlines thinking about packing them the way they do, they're coming in with a pretty good bunch of saturated people, if it should, because proof is in the pudding. We showed the Purdue study. I posted it, but it showed how one person sitting in the middle row, 16th row, can actually do one cough and infect from the first row all the way to the back. How prepared are you folks once the floodgates open? Because I think what you're doing right now is you're working at a very comfortable pace, right? It seems, but it's definitely going to ramp up 4 or 5 times.
Yep.
So, but you just gonna make the people just stand and says, "Okay, we'll be right with you," and you try courteous as possible, I guess.
No, and that's the thing is when I was at the airport on Wednesday, and I was working with Joan Luddington. She's one of our wonder enforcement officers, almost single-handedly shut down parts of the illegal vacation rental industry in parts of the island. But she was at the airport with me the other day, and we had a pile up because the passengers hadn't filled out their forms. And she was kind of like, we gotta move. I was like, no, they've come this far. They can wait a little bit longer. Take your time. Make sure we go through their information. But if they have to wait, they have to wait, quite honestly.
Buy water from Costco. Give them water and soda crackers. Kind of. So, I mean, I want to kind of go back to the Expedia thing now. So now all of these platforms, Expedia, VRBO, the illegal TVR will not be able to post their properties on these sites. Is that what it is?
Right now, the way the MOU is set up, at a bare minimum, if they are on the platform, then once a month, the platform is going to get us all the TMKs that are listing on themselves. And then we'll tell them which ones to kick off. We do hope to essentially establish it in a manner that, once you have all the TMKs, to possibly set up a system where they're not even allowed to enter it. And therefore, Expedia doesn't have to send us this report and we call through it. We hope to have that set up, but at a bare minimum, they'll be sending us a report with those, and then they'll deactivate them once we notify them. So there may still be the potential for them to list, but at least we're getting the information and they're willing to kick off those folks that aren't supposed to be there.
That should reduce the numbers drastically. That's awesome. It was a good job, man. I tell you that was, we were talking about that for a long time, but it was nice to see that finally happen. Good job. I had a question about on the cases that go and get adjudicated and we get a fine, whatever, 10,000, 20,000, because it is $10,000 a day.
Yep.
That's what the code says, 10,000 a day.
Yep.
But if there is a judgment or an award for the fine, is foreclosure an option for those that do not pay the fine? After you go through the legal process and and try to collect, and it's obvious that these people are not going to pay, and this would be more towards the higher end fines.
Right.
Is foreclosure an option, or is
right now it isn't, to be honest. No, it's not an option for planning. Of course, the tax division has that potential if property owners don't pay their taxes. The planning department doesn't have as a far authority to foreclose on lack of payment of fine. But what we recently got from the county council about 5 or 6 months ago was the ability to levy liens on a property. And we're in fact in the process of levying liens on a couple properties. And there was some concern, well, the planning department is going to start throwing liens at every single property that's out there. And it's mainly for the egregious folks. And we have 2 going through court right now just for 2 vacation rentals, illegal vacation rentals, that just have thrown everything to the wind, not taking any notifications, not even acknowledging that they're they're not in compliance. So we're levying liens on them. For some property owners, a lien is not going to matter, quite honestly. If you own your property outright and you don't intend to sell it, a lien doesn't matter really too much to those people. But if you are still in mortgage payments with a bank and a lien is placed on your property, in many scenarios, the bank will foreclose on your property because the government has levied a lien. And so it kind of brings them kind of into the fight now for that scenario. But, you know, I wouldn't be averse to, you know, being given additional authority to levy foreclose on those who do not pay the fines once the court order has been issued.
Now, question regarding that company that you folks had retained to kind of do the stats for you folks.
Yep.
Does that company also have the ability to track, you know, when people actually go online, where those inquiries are coming from, like what state? Do they have any of that kind of ability?
No,
Okay.
yeah, they're just using algorithms to monitor the advertisements themselves, but not necessarily the inquiries from the potential clients.
Okay. Because with this 40% spike, well, 40% of states that have spikes in high numbers, that seems to be some of the worries from, you know, a lot of the guests we've had on and a lot of the questions we've been having, because I guess the closest to us is California, and with their huge numbers, I mean, hitting like 40,000 in one day.
Yep.
It's like almost crazy. And I think Hawaiian, I think they posted it last night on the news that one of their share market is from California, flying over here.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just something waiting to happen. You know, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but it's kind of inevitable. I mean,
yeah, how much of those people are gonna, you know, particularly try to look at Hawaii or Kauai as a safe haven from these spiking areas? You know, I'll be honest, we're seeing it at the airport. And it you know, it's we did a good job. Mayor and his team have done an excellent job in making this community safe. And now some people are flocking here because of that job well done. But by that very nature, some of those individuals may be carrying the virus with them. How do you balance that? Sorry, I'm gonna turn the light. I know I'm kind of getting dark here. I'll be right back.
We can watch the sunset by his house. That's so nice. Look at that view.
yeah, that's Omao.
Is that Omao?
Yeah.
Where? That is
Whoa.
Omao, eh, Charlie?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We should have just went to his lanai and do this thing live from his house.
Oh no, but then we're gonna have to quarantine, and his house is too small for me.
I'll be honest with the I've shut my office down for teleworking, and we only have a couple people in there, partly because our office is just so small and cramped. We have some people that have to work 2 feet away from each other. But I've prohibited any in-office meetings, even with masks. But we've had a few meetings where it's like, we need Wi-Fi. It'd be okay to be outside. So we've had meetings where they come to the lanai essentially because it's outside and has Wi-Fi. And Mel, you might get a kick. We were just discussing the update for the Shoreline Setback Ordinance. So Ian Jung, Mauna Kea Trask, and Karen Diamond were duking it out on the lanai just yesterday night.
Oh, right on. Yeah. I tell you, you know, there's some things that that Shoreline Setback and the TVR were probably two of the most that was the hard bills to get through. It's just a lot of emotion. Hey, what was the name of that company that's doing the statistics and the guys you signed? Somebody's asking that question.
The one that does the statistics for us tracking the Airbnb platforms and stuff.
Yeah.
The company's name is Host Compliance.
Okay, that's one of our viewers. And then I got some regular planning questions. Kind of hope you don't mind.
No.
You guys, you know, the rules changed. The code's been changed. I know that there's been a lot of activity on the county council in the last year or so, trying to crack the nut of housing and allowing families to extend and create units for their family members that they have nowhere to go. The question is, can you rent rooms? Can you build extra rooms and rent rooms in your house in a residential area?
Yes, you can rent a room long term. You cannot short term, but you can indeed rent a room in your house to roommates or tenants. In some situations, you can't necessarily put a kitchen in there. And we have freed up the ability to put more kitchens in homes now, though, so that is there. But a straight out room rental is outright permissible as long as it's in the long term,
which would be 180 days. So I hope you guys get that, because I know we get a lot of, it's one of the things, the coconut wireless can be a really good thing, but the coconut wireless can be a lot of misinformation. And I think some counties is 30 days, some counties might be 60 days, but on Kauai, it's 180 days, it's 6 months. So regardless of, that's the law. That's the law. If your rental is less than 180 days, it's a short-term rental, and it's not a long-term rental. Vacation rentals cannot be outside of the visitor destination area, which kind of talked about. I keep seeing more and more attempts to circumvent the law on Craigslist, and again, they're presenting it as a opportunity for a short-term rental, which is illegal if you're not in the VDA. If it's a transit vacation rental. So, I don't know what's the best way to get information out. We hope once we get past the COVID, that's what we'll use this show for, is to bring on different, again, keeping the format, but changing up the content. But I don't want to waste our time with you, because planning is such a complicated department, and with changing. I noticed that on the council agenda, there was some planning bills again coming up this week. There was a question about how much are we spending for these processes, and I do believe, I thought I saw on the agenda next week, on next Wednesday's meeting, they're gonna talk about I believe they've spent 650,000. I think that's what it was on the agenda for the COVID money, and they're gonna present the report to the county council. So that might be one that you guys want to watch. Anything else, kind of, as far as Craigslist? Craigslist is another big one. Do you guys monitor that as well?
We do, and I'd say just bring it up with you folks now. If you guys are really seeing it at your end, we'll monitor it a lot more. It is one that we hit. I'd say it's not one that we monitor frequently. The ones we generally do are the big boys in the room, like Airbnb and VRBO. But now that we've kind of come to this MOU, we'll be working through that. But I can say very specifically that one of the individuals that we put back on the airplane when I was there on Wednesday, or I should say, two of the individuals were from a Craigslist ad. They were unwilling.
Yeah, can you give us? Some people are asking again to list the TVR areas on island. So you mentioned was Princeville.
You have Princeville. You have the Coconut Coast in Kapa'a. You have parts of Nawili Wili around essentially the Marriott area. Much of Poipu, not all of Poipu, but much of Poipu. And Waimea has a VDA, but it's just the plantation cottages. They don't do TVRs there, but those are essentially the areas. We can provide you folks, if you want, with a map that has the actual lines of where these things are permissible, if your viewers would like something like that.
Oh, is there I know nobody's in the office, but if somebody wanted to get a map, could something be sent to them by email if they requested for it? What email address would they go to? Would it be?
They can rest. You can send it to mine, KHULL@kauai.gov.
Hey, new T-shirt on the spot. Hey, Charlie is so good. He got the lieutenant governor to put up his personal cell phone number on the screen.
But we are all digital. So we do have people in office. We have people answering phones. We have people processing permits. If they want to come in, it's by appointment. But we're all digital too. So we can send people, whether it's a permit application request or whether it's maps. you can send it directly to my email, khul@kauai.gov. We're shifting over because we have a bunch of planning department emails,
Yes.
Plan Kauai and planning department determinations, and we decided it's getting all over the place. We just need one singular email. So that's why I don't want to voice that one, because we're about to change that one. I believe it's going to be effective Kauai Planning Department at kauai.gov, but it's not quite there. We should have it up in the next few days. So until then, by all means, use my email.
Now, you know the kiosk. You have the kiosk right in front of your folks department. That you go by appointment, do the kiosk.
The kiosk is actually for the real property folks. Ours, if you just log on to the Kauai Planning Department, just Google Kauai Planning Department. On our website is an appointment schedule list, and we haven't been booked up at all. I think at most we have 8 or 9 appointments a day. So
no, I was going to ask you that, because there's a voice that calls your number that seats you, and that poor lady must be tired. I hear her all day. I mean, must be working long hours, man. Mel,
no,
what's the matter, Mel?
Huh?
What's the matter, Mel?
Nothing. My wife just come home. She just cut her hair and she gets some highlights now. I gotta go do that to my hair. You know what is so funny? And I don't know, you married, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
You know my hair, but I like color my hair. My wife told me no, but she can color hers.
Men are different.
Men are different. Men are different. What the hell is men are? That's sexist. That's sexist. God, I say the best. Oh, I'm sorry.
Someone actually told us, and you didn't see it, but someone actually told, in the mainland, they was watching our feed, and they thought that they knew I was Charlie, and they thought that tonight's co-host was Kenny Rogers. They thought you were Kenny Rogers. Can you believe that?
Kenny Rogers died.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I just said they thought you're Kenny Rogers.
You gotta know when to hold and know when to fold. All right. Kinda, I saving the best question for last. And hey, we never script our things, kinda. We never share. We're not, everybody comes on here without expectation. I don't know, but something is calling me to ask this question, and I wonder if you can guess what it is.
Can't.
What is one of the biggest or the most asked question planning in general, not about zoning, but just in general? One piece of property on Kauai that everybody's asking about.
Oh, Coco Palm.
Oh, Coco Palm. My wife got it. Bingo. She gets the prize. There was a time in my life that I was very abreast of what was going on, and I'm not anymore. Can you give us a quick overview of what the heck? Everybody pay attention, because a lot of you guys been asking.
Yeah, so the original developers essentially, how do I say this? I wasn't prepared for this one. The original developers are no longer part of the team developing it. They went through, I think, some financial and legal issues with the mortgage holder of the property. And essentially that mortgage holder of the property has, to speak bluntly, pushed those developers out and have assumed control of the property. What has happened now is there was actually in the paper a while ago, about a month ago, about Coco Palms going through foreclosure. And a lot of that is really just the legal mechanisms that mortgage holding company is doing to return it back to a free and clear title and essentially sever ties with the previous developers. And so that's essentially what's going on in foreclosure right now, is that legal cleaning of title. We, in talks with them, I believe they are still looking at a potential buyer, but no discussions and negotiations are being held during the foreclosure time. They will be presenting before the Planning Commission either on July 14th or August 11th. We're setting that date right now. So that's as much as I know for Coco Palms and where they stand. But when we get that status, when they give the report to the commission, either coming up in a week or two here or in August, we're gonna have a lot clearer picture then too.
Wow.
Interesting. I mean, that when the last two owners, the two young guys, came with the original plan, and you know, I was actually convinced that they were going to make it happen, and I remember telling people that if they couldn't make it happen, no one else could. They had the funding at the time, they had the backing. What is the status of the permits for Coco Palms? I know there was an attempt by Mayor Cavallo years ago to repeal the Iniki ordinance, which would have given them a lot of flexibility to continue or to build their project without the current requirements. That Iniki ordinance is still attached or still going for that property, or has that changed?
They still have their entitlements because they got the permits updated essentially, and so they have the entitlements and the permits are there and they're good. And I say that somewhat cautiously because there was a recent court case here in Kauai that has somewhat rendered a whole new paradigm for special management area use permits, and essentially their expiration date if substantial construction has not occurred. Generally, they've been allowed to, and at least our interpretation has been, as long as they're making some leeway, the permits themselves are vested, and that until the planning commission proactively kills the permit, there is still an entitlement involved. And we recently had a court case ruling saying that is not the case. So it's kind of to be continued because myself, our deputy Jody Saigusa, and the county attorneys are analyzing that case to see are all of these SMA permits, which Coco Palms is one, or have they all been nullified by this case? So we can keep you guys abreast.
So, you know, just by what you just said, so are they saying that, you know, based on that, I guess, building or start to build on a property, they're actually quantifying it now? Is that they're pretty much quantifying it? If they don't see anything of substance, yeah, that means bingo, cut, shut down.
Yeah.
So who brought up? Would you be able to know, or were you folks told who kind of went in with that position to quantify a building?
Well, it wasn't that they went in to quantify it. It just was the planning commission recently took action to amend a previously existing permit, and a contesting neighbor essentially felt that no, they shouldn't be amending and updating. They're supposed to get brand new permits. These permits have been null and void, and therefore it shouldn't happen. And because, sorry, we're getting kind of into the murkiness of planning, but within the special management area, you have 2 years to substantially construct a project. And our understanding was that as long as you keep on the ball moving to a certain degree and you don't proactively kill the permits, then the permits are still alive. But the court ruling was nope. After 2 years, it is dead. And so we're having to bring in not just Coco Palms, but we're looking at all special management area permits that have been issued over the past, since 1976, quite honestly.
And it makes sense, kind of. I don't know. I mean, I hope you agree. It will make sense because the SMAs change, right? Conditions change, erosion, all of those things that affect SMA, special management areas. So in essence, what you're saying is there's a possibility that those permits are null and void based on a recent court ruling.
Correct.
Oh, that's interesting. That is interesting. Awesome. Wow. We got to do a session just on Coco Palms. I mean, that is interesting. Yep. Now you got me thinking again. I didn't realize that had happened, but anyway, we're approaching the 8 o'clock hour, kinda. First of all, again, thank you very much for being here. I know, I mean, gosh, a lot of stuff going on, but any words of advice or wisdom for our viewers? There'll be thousands of them. So,
yeah.
By the way, you got a beautiful view. Damn.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you guys for having us. The signature of the MOU, I think, is it's not the work with the illegal vacation rental industry isn't done, but we are, I think, approaching a very much of an end game situation here, and it's something I think you and your colleagues at council kind of put in place several years ago, Mel. So I think it's very appropriate to be able to appear on the show and talk about it. Outside of that, I'll just a parting words I'll say for your viewers is the planning department is open for business. If there is going to be anything, tourism is not going to return anytime soon. Some will be coming back, but it's not going to, as an engine, it's not coming back. Much of it's going to be through the construction program, and the mayor and his team are robustly chasing federal and state monies to not only stimulate infrastructure, but that gets jobs going. The infrastructure should bring in more types of money that can help prop up our economy again. And so that's what I say. The last thing any department really should be is a barrier to these types of improvements, particularly to those that are home and wanting to make improvements now. A lot of people are hurting and they can't afford it. Some have the means, local families, to start these projects on the home and are unaware. Is planning department processing permits, is building processing permits? We absolutely are, and we want to help you actually get them through as quickly and easily as possible. So coming into our office, set an appointment, send us an email if you want to look at how your permits need to get processed. But we're absolutely here to help you navigate the what can be a very bureaucratic set of rules and regulations. We want to help you guys navigate them. So please come in or contact us.
Awesome. I just real quick, people asking about the TVR licenses. Can we take it away when they sell the house? The answer is no. We'll get into that. We'll get the legislature on at a later show. We'll talk about that. That's something that we've been trying to do for a long time. The state has to pass a law that allows the county to remove the use of the TVR or the permit at the sale. So talk to your state legislators. Talk to Kochi, Nakamura, Tokioka, and Morikawa. Tell them, give the counties the authority to remove the use of a TVR when they sell the property. Please, beg them. We've tried for years. They don't listen. Charlie, any closing comments?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you, Kaina. It's haven't seen you in a while, but thank you for all the vital and very important information. And to our viewers out there, if there's anything you need help with, you have questions, you can email me directly on my email address is khull, Hull, at kauai.gov. That's khull at kauai.gov. I would like to say though, tonight, Kaina, I told Mel, I said, you know what? I'm really not up with TVRs. I hope you don't mind if you ask all the questions because I'm gonna sound like I'm bolo. So I only asked certain things that I was kind of floating towards, but I left the rest up to him. But I found it very, very interesting. And I think I gotta make more of an effort to understand it. And gang, when we're in the enforcement business, we can find all kinds of things. You just gotta point us in the right direction and we'll get it done. So thank you for joining us. Over to you, Mel.
Well, Kaina, thank you very much. Really excited with what you've done with that department since you took over. I think the people recognize, you're open, honest, articulate. Just I work with many planning directors. All been good, but you for some reason you're much more outside of the box kind of guy and willing and open-minded. And I gotta say that's just refreshing. I really miss working with you. And I appreciate you spending the time. Not too many department heads. Remember, this guy is the director of planning. He looked young, but he's the boss, and he gave you his email address on live Facebook. So he's gonna regret that tomorrow, but that is much appreciated. Keep up the good work. I know you guys have our best interests at heart, and Cocoa Palms is one. I'm hoping that the county and the state, this is just my vision of Cocoa Palms, because I really wanted to see the last two guys succeed. I really want to see that thing become a park. I think we've given enough developers, enough owners, enough rich people, millionaires, broke ass people. Everybody had an opportunity. Everyone has failed. It's time for the state, the county, and maybe some private nonprofit organizations to come together and turn that into a nice park where our local residents and our visitors can enjoy. So I don't know why I felt the need to say that, but I did. I'm not running for office. Kaina, thank you very much, my friend. Stay safe. Keep up the good. Yeah, where's your kind, Charlie? Where's your applause?
Hey, thank you guys so much. Thank you again. And anything else you need, just let me know.
Roger Dodger, man. Tomorrow night we will be at Kauai Hill Steak and Ribs for their last night. They are closing up shop, locking up. COVID got the best of them, but it's going to be their last night. So Pat and I will be out there. We'll be broadcasting live. Charlie and his band will be playing music. So if you're around, just tune in. We'll be scattering, interviewing people, whatever. We'll just have some fun. It's so impromptu. I don't know what we're gonna do. I might even have a beer or two. 3. And if that happens, then it'll be a really fun show. A really fun show.
I might have, after 2 years of no. I might just have a sip.
No, Charlie. No, you cannot have. You cannot have. Sorry. Old duels or Heineken Zero.
Maybe I'll have a Jack Daniels, a sip of Jack Daniels.
No. Everybody, good night. Stay safe. God bless. We love you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Aloha. Oop, how do you get out of here?
You still on, brother? You still on? Yes, he's still on. Aloha, gang. We shall see you later. Brother Mel, take us off the air.